Alright, hopefully now you've chosen a topic and you're ready to begin researching. Researching is the biggest pain, it takes the longest, it's difficult, it's frustrating, so I'm going to give you some hints to try to help you move along quicker and more efficiently here. Understand that when you are searching the internet, searching the library database, wherever it is you're looking, you have to think about the quality of the sources that you're finding. One of the things that you have to take into consideration is the currency. How recent is the information? Is this the most up-to-date data? Is this the time frame that you're looking at? Maybe you want to get information from the past. Maybe you're writing about President Nixon and you want to know something about what was going on at that particular time. Finding an article from 1970 is not a bad idea because you're going to be getting a first-hand view of what people thought at that moment. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. You have to think about how recent an article has to be to meet your needs. But for most things, you're going to try to find the most recent information because most of the time you're going to be talking about what's considered the current, correct point of view. Reliability, this is the big one. This is the hardest one. You have to make sure that your research is credible. You have to make sure that the information you're getting is accurate, it's real, it's factual, it's not someone's opinion, there's no bias going on here. That the person who wrote this is qualified, knows what they're doing, is either an expert on the information or knows how to go to experts and gather accurate data. You just can't grab any old source because it sounds good. You've got to verify that the author knows what they're talking about. I'll show you some examples later. Relevance. How well does this really suit your purpose? And don't just go for something flaky and light because, well, it's got some stuff here that's usable. You want to go for stuff that has depth, that really gives you a lot of information, not just a quick answer. Unfortunately, we live in a time frame where everybody's in a hurry and they just want quick answers, but this is college. We want to show that you're thinking, that you're really considering the information that you're running into, and you can really thoroughly respond to the prompt. So now you've got a topic. You want to focus your research because just typing in your topic name will get you millions of hits. You want something that you can narrow in on and say, this is a specific question I have or a specific area of information that I want to find. So the best thing to do, especially for this particular project, is you come up with 3 statements, 3 questions. For this particular assignment, your topic statement is basically blank is iconic because, and now you're going to try to answer that. One of the ways to do it is to say, why do we remember this icon? Why does this icon come fresh to mind? Why does it leap instantly into our thoughts? Why is it when we hear this name we go, oh, I know what that is? Look at its visual appeal. What is it about it that we like about it? What is it that's attractive? And sometimes it might have been the first or the greatest thing to do something. Sometimes it was neither, but yet it was the one that was best at marketing itself, and so we remember it more. So these are just suggestions. Each one of your topics is going to come up with a different set of statements. When you do your research, you have 2 choices really. So for right now, because we can't go out to the library or to the bookstore or other places, we're really difficult to do interviews. So we're kind of stuck with Google and the library. For this particular assignment, you're not going to find a lot in the library. There's going to be some things in the library, but you're probably going to be doing a lot of your research on Google. Now, Google is not bad. Google has a lot of good information in it. The problem is Google is difficult to navigate to try to get to the good information, whereas the HCC library has been made simple for you. What's the difference between the 2? Google is free to all users. You've already paid for your internet service. Google comes free with that. So you don't have to worry about additional fees. That is, until you find certain sites. And a lot of the sites that have the information you want are going to say, we don't give that up for free. You've got to pay for it. So while there's a lot of good information out there for free, also understand that you're getting what you pay for. You're not paying anything for it. It's going to be really light and not very deep and accurate and as acceptable. You're going to get a lot of lightweight pop culture type references. You're going to find things like People magazine kind of responses. You're not going to get into the deep, in-depth explanation as to how this proton particularly helps to fight cancer. You're just going to get an article that says, they're using protons now, and protons are like a really good way to fight cancer, you know? Okay, cool. You won't get as sick using protons. I was like, okay, thank you, little surfer girl. HCC has a subscription service. Our library pays for all those sources. So there's actually been somebody who has looked them over and said, yes, these are good sources to use. These are academic journals that were written specifically to be used by college students in their research, or were written by experts. Like I said, with Google, you've got a lot of popular culture, a lot of fans out there. Tip, I want to tell you all about my favorite person in like entertainment, okay? I want to tell you why I love this music. HCC is strictly academic. It's for students to further explore information that they need for their majors and areas of study. And it's also for other academics, meaning professors like myself, scientists, and critics, and people who live within the world of academia, and we're trying to further our fields. You go to Google, you're going to hit a lot of advertisements, and if you get to a site that's just flooding you with advertisements, you might as well just avoid it. Get out of it. HC Library, there's no clutter, no advertisements. You're going straight to your article, and that's all you're getting is your article. Google's going to give you the most popular searches. When you do your search, you're going to get the hits that get opened the most. That doesn't mean they're the best. That just means that, like, if you have done your Wikipedia homework, it's like Family Feud. It's the most popular. It's the one people like to go to the most. What's always in the top 10 hits? Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not bad. Wikipedia is just not awesome. Wikipedia is a nice way to start if you're not familiar and you need to get some basic ideas. But you can't use it as a source. In fact, much of what you're going to find in Google really isn't usable as a source. You're going to have to really dig to find good, usable sources. Whereas almost everything that comes up in the HCC library is going to be considered a good source. The problem with the HCC library is finding the specific things that you're looking for. Google, a lot of times you don't know who wrote what you're looking at. You have no idea who created it. And when you don't know who created it, you can't trust the information. So if you don't know who wrote it, you can't trust it. So can you use it? In most cases, not. Whereas the HCC library, experts in their fields have written this. You know these people know what they're talking about. Plus, they give you their credentials. You'll be able to look right at the bottom of the article, and it will tell you exactly who these people are and why you should trust their information. A lot of times, they'll even tell you how they got the information. On Google, you'll get a lot of Wikipedia and wikis. You'll get blogs. You'll get trivia. You'll get lists. There's no depth here again. They're all lightweight, quick, edited, brief bits of information. They're quick flashes, but they're not detail. They really don't explain a lot. It's enough to get your feet wet, but not enough to really learn how to swim. When you go to the HCC library, you're getting very thorough research. So thorough in times that you just want to shoot yourself. Oh my god, this stuff's so boring. But they really go into detail to explain to you how they got this information, why they know what they know. So just have to understand, there are limitations to both. There are advantages to both. You have to know what you're looking for and what you need to find, and then the hardest part is, can you trust what you found? An example, Martin Luther King Jr. He's a perfect example of an icon. Why? Here's our 3 statements. 1, he was charismatic and a great orator. 2, he used nonviolent demonstrations to get his message across. And 3, thanks to television, his movement was a shared cultural experience. All right? What does that mean? Well, this is how I'm going to do my search. First of all, I want to discuss Martin Luther King Jr. as being charismatic and a great orator. So let's say that I go to the internet. Let's bring up the internet here. Oh, there's Mr. John Cena. We don't want to talk about John Cena right now. Let's look up. Now let's see if we just type in Martin Luther, King Jr. Watch what happens. Oh, this is Bing. I don't want Bing. I want to be in Google. Let's cut that. Let's go up here to Google. There we go. There's Google. Alright. Alright, so now let's do this one. Now we do Martin Luther King Jr. Look at how many hits. 184 million results. Oh, and I misspelled Luther, but fortunately I fixed that. Okay. Now, look, here we go. The first thing we get are 5 amazing facts about Martin Luther King. Don't do these things. These are lists. Here are 5 facts you should know about him. He was killed in 1968. On April 4th, he was assassinated. Oh, by the 277th man on the FBI's most wanted list. Who cares? You know, this is junk. This is junk food. He was on the balcony of his motel and he shot. This is the most important things you should know about Martin Luther King Jr. This is all about it the day he was assassinated. Big whoop. It's not going to help you. You're going to find a lot of crazy lists like this. Oh, look. This says it's Martin Luther King's life history. But notice, it says ad. Don't trust it. It's an advertisement. It's not real. In fact, you're going to get bombarded. We'll click on it. You're going to get bombarded with ads when we go here. Look, I don't even see anything about Martin Luther King Jr. here. What the heck is this? It's a site that's selling stuff. So be careful when you see that ad thing. I wouldn't even click on it. And finally, here we are, Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia is not bad. Wikipedia is going to give you a quick batch of information. It's an encyclopedia. These are just dry facts. There's no depth, there's no flavor to it. It's not very interesting, but it will give you some ideas. And you'll look through and you'll see some things that might help out. My God, look at all this stuff here. This would be really great if you were writing his biography, which you're not going to do. You're not writing a biography. But look, there's his I Have a Dream speech. If I click on that, I'll probably be able to click on a link that will take me straight to the whole speech. But this is actually probably more to what you would be looking for. What happened after his death? What made him a legacy? Here we go, his legacy. So this can give you some ideas of what to look for. Look at this, his roles, the role television played in all of this. So this could help you at least get started. And the nice thing about Wikipedia is they tell you where they got their information. So if you read a fact that you like, you can usually click on it down here and find out more about it. You can go back to their original source. Right. Whoops, this page cannot be found. This happens a lot. The sites that they used in Wikipedia have disappeared. They don't exist anymore. So, unfortunately, that's sad reality. Let's see. That one worked. That one, look, it's actually pages out of a book. Okay. So that's Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is a start, but you can't use it as a source. If you use it as a source, I will smack you on the hand. I'll come to your house, knock on the door, and smack you on the hand. Okay. Again, we don't want to do biographies. Oh, look. Day, quote, and facts. Biography. Again, you're going to get a lot of lists here. Quotes has more lists. You're not getting anything with any real depth here. Mainly because all we said was, hey, whatever says Martin Luther King Jr. in it is going to pop up. So you're going to get a lot of unrelated information too. You need to narrow the focus. So let's say his personality. I want to know more about his personality. Okay? And I still have it coming up as Luthor, not Luther. Okay. Alright, let's see what comes up there. Alright. He was a catalyst leader. It's another ad. Another ad. Another ad. Characteristics that made him, and it's question markable. Okay, these checks are important. You look for things like that. But again, 10 leadership qualities. It's a list. 16 personalities. Alright, this is probably a little short blurb about him. Oh, look, this looks like it was written for children. Yep. So you can see the frustration you start getting right away. Oh, by celebrities galore. Oh my goodness, this sounds like a gossip site. This is more towards what I was looking for, his leadership and character. So let's see. NPS government. Go. Thank you. Oh dear gosh. Yeah, this looks like a student did this. You can start seeing already the problems with trying to find things on Google. Right? Now, some things you don't have a choice. With Martin Luther King Jr., probably your best bet would have been, now let me come back here, because you go to our website, the Hartford Community College website. Go to ALNet. Yes, my session expired, I know. Let me log in. Let me log in, thank you. So we log in. Alright. Password. I notice here the library. We click right on it. And we'll go in. You want to start with research databases. Don't just type in Martin Luther King Jr. because it's going to search the entire library. It's going to look for articles. It's going to look for books, ebooks, videos, anything that's in the library will show up there. Again, you'll get overwhelmed. Let's just go straight to research databases. In research databases, they're alphabetized. So if you know a specific source that you want to go to, you can go right to it. So let's say you want to try Time Magazine. You can click on T. Databases begin with the letter T. Well, that didn't help out. There's ways to do that, though. But anyway, you click here, clicking on a subject. So, I might want to look at his influence in education. Government and political science is probably a good place to look. History might be a good place to look. So, philosophy and religion. You could do it this way and try to find a particular database. Or you can just come up here and do a generic search. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with interesting. I'm trying to figure out which would probably be the best. Actually, I'm going to try psychology. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to look at the different databases that came up. And I'm going to say, wow, look at all this stuff. I'm going to go to the psychology database, which I don't know why that wasn't right on top. And it's making me sign in again. This is ridiculous. Never had this problem before. Alright. Okay, thank you. Psychology database. Alright, now that I'm in here. Martin Luther, and I spelled it wrong. Junior. As an orator, which means that he was really good at making speeches. Let's see just what comes up when I click on that. Searching, searching, searching. His worldview, leadership transformed and ingrained in culture. Could be worth looking at just to see what it talks about. And ooh, look at all these PhD people who wrote this article. And eventually we'll actually get into the article. Abstract is, it's a summary. And it's just telling you real quick, this is what this thing's about. This thing looks like it's going to be like 40 pages long. Leaders help. Okay, let's see. Okay, they're going to look at the different ways he tried to encourage cultural change. Okay. Committed to. Okay, this is going to talk about nonviolence and love. Okay, that's actually a different one of my focuses. So this could be very useful. So, again, you don't. When these things are long, like, oh, look at this. This is. Yeah, I was right. This. Oh wow, it's 60, 70, 80, 90 pages long. You don't have to read the whole thing. Look at it and see what's interesting and go for that. His journey to becoming a great orator. Alright, right there, that's something I wanted to know about. So I'll skip to page 1, read that, and then I'll go back and look for other things I might want to read about. So, review of literature, no. Here we go, view, okay, it's not in the process itself. So I would read this and see if it has anything that's going to help me discuss about why he was a great speech maker. Right? So this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. You look at a lot of things before you decide what's really usable, what's not usable for you. You're going to sit here and going to look at a lot of these different things. Okay, not really worried about how Martin Luther King is related to surgery. That's weird. Higher education, no. Comedy? Comedy? Really? Probably skip that one. A Freudian interpretation? No, thank you. That's too scary. Wow, we're getting out of it real fast. So, then I would go back and do another search. This takes a lot of time. That's why I was trying to explain in the last video that you really have to dedicate a lot of time to research, to try to find things, to try to figure out where the stuff is that you're looking for. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of effort and really a lot of time. But once you've found them, once you have your sources, the rest gets easy. You can move through it. That's when the procrastination maybe comes in. All right. Next slide. Kevin, you've decided you want to talk about Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is definitely iconic. He is probably the basketball icon right now. And why? Because he died. Whoops. It's a sad thing to say, but his death really pushed him into the public view. He was a great basketball player, but there would be people who would argue back and forth. Michael Jordan was better. They might go all the way back to the 70s and say that there were better players back then. They would argue back and forth, but his death has definitely pushed him into the public eye right now, and that's what we're looking at is iconic. He doesn't have to be the best to be iconic. He just has to be popular. So please don't tell me his life story. I don't want to hear where he was born, what year he was born, how he grew up, how he got to be drafted, was he originally in the Lakers or another team, or any of that sort of stuff. No. Go straight to the things that made him a superstar. What did he do on the court? Look at these, all these great stats. Those are the sort of things that you want to give me. Then talk about how he contributed to the game of basketball besides just being a player. You know, after he retired, he continued to contribute to the game. That he worked with young women to try to get them involved in the game. Look at all the things he's done to continue to try to make basketball great. How did he stay in the public eye? And then, when he died, talk about that as another paragraph. And then look at all the great people who had things to say about him. Other great basketball players. People in other sports. Notice that the NFL, they were playing, what was that, the All-Star game. And they stopped it. They went away to talk about Kobe Bryant. I mean, these are football fans, and they took a half an hour to talk about, we never saw the ending of that game. They went off to talk about Kobe Bryant, and we never went back to the ending of that game. We had to find out from the news who won or lost that game. That's important, that he was more important than this big football game. Batman, John, you've picked a very awkward one in the fact that you're going to run into a lot of junk when you go out onto the internet. It's going to be a little harder to track down information on Batman that's usable for this. Because again, I don't want his history. Very briefly talk about his history, but not a lot of in-depth. You 1, 2 paragraphs tops. Don't talk anymore about his history after that. Instead, what are the things that makes him iconic? And one of them is that very unique look of his. That cowl, that cape, his darkness, these elements of design. That's what makes him instantly identifiable. Things like he has this huge group of villains that people recognize. How many of Superman's archfoes can you name? Can you name any of Aquaman's? Can you name how many? Well, Spider-Man's a little bit better for this, but how many of Iron Man's archfoes can you name? Yeah, Batman, you could probably go on for half a day. You could probably name off 20. And he has, as the Joker says in the first movie, all those wonderful toys. He's got the Batmobile, the Batcave, the Batplane, the Batcopter, the Batboat, his Batarang. He's got his little Batboy Robin. Oh wait, that's not a toy. But yeah, all these things. And you know what all these things do? They contribute towards making toys, real toys that kids play with. And those toys help kids connect to Batman so that he becomes part of their childhood and something that we carry with us for the rest of our lives. Batman, if he was just in the comic books, would not be iconic. But he's also been on television. He's been in the movies. He's been on cartoons. This character's been all over the place. He's been on cereal. He's probably had his own multivitamin at one time. These are the things that puts him into the public conscience. This is how we see him. The more we can see him, the more places he pops up, the more we remember him, and thus the more iconic he gets. You also want to look at the psychology of the superhero. What is it about superheroes that they've endured for almost 80 years now? 1938 is when Superman showed up, and he was the first true superhero. We had mythic heroes before that, Hercules and Samson, but most of them didn't have superpowers. They were ordinary men. Superman had powers beyond the ordinary human. And he wore the tights, he wore the cape, he set the tone for all the heroes that followed. Batman showed up 2 years later. Why are these superheroes still popular today? Why are these movies selling so well? What is it about them that appeals to us, especially young boys and adult men? We have this hero fantasy. We want to be the guys who save the world. It's part of our upbringing, part of going all the way back to cave person days, that the man goes out, hunts, protects, and saves. So we can't really do that anymore. So these superheroes are filling a need in our lives. Look that up. That you'll find in the Harford County Public Library. The Harford County Public Library? The Harford College Library, sorry. And don't forget, you don't have to use magazines and books. In this particular case, you had to mention to me that you have the movies on DVDs. I looked at the DVDs, and I found some interesting things. At first I thought, I'll find it on Batman the Animated Series. And I was a bit disappointed. There was some information there, but it wasn't what I thought I'd find. Instead, when I went to the first Batman movie, all these bonus stories were on here. On the set with Bob Kane, the man who created Batman, and he spends a half an hour telling us all about what inspired him to make Batman. Legends of the Dark Knight, this right here, was wonderful. Told all sorts of interesting facts about Batman and why people love him. Shadows of the Bat, an entire history of his cinematics, his life. There are three parts to this thing. So there's all sorts. You can find things in the strangest of places. So don't just feel like I have to find it on the internet. You can find it in all kinds of places. So look around. Ask people, where do you think how do they know these things? Why are they familiar with these things? And they can guide you towards stuff. Don't be afraid to talk to someone who's an expert in that field. If you know somebody who's a video game programmer, talk to that person, Alex, and see what they're going to tell you about the history of Nintendo and why Nintendo is so cool and awesome. Nintendo is going to be a little frustrating for you because you're going to find a lot of information talking about the history of Nintendo. There's going to be 1,000,001 fan sites out there saying, I love Nintendo, it's my favorite game system. You know, I've scored 8,042 points playing this particular system. I beat this game in so many days. And just, you want to avoid that sort of insanity, and you may have to go straight to Nintendo's actual website to get some of the information. But you also want to try to find video game magazines and professional video game sites and see what they have to say. Why do they think that Nintendo is a better system, or what is so awesome? Why do we remember Nintendo? They may say that Xbox is a better system, but we still tend to remember Nintendo first. Why? So, yeah, you do want to look at how Nintendo actually originated the video game industry. It's pretty funny. It's a weird little story. Nintendo originally was making card games. So look that up. That's an interesting way to get it started. Don't get bogged down into it. No more than the 3 paragraphs about the history of Nintendo. Get into the innovations, the things Nintendo did to constantly change up the field. Atari doesn't exist anymore. Everybody was buying Atari games back in the 70s, but Atari didn't innovate. Atari didn't improve and change. Atari died. Nintendo came up with other things like Game Boy, new ways to push their product. The variety is what has kept them alive all this long. They have come up with the iconic characters like the Mario Brothers. Isn't Sonic the Hedgehog one of theirs? All sorts of crazy little characters that they've invented that we recognize. We go, oh yeah, that one's had a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Can you name any of those characters from Xbox? From PlayStation? No. But Nintendo has given us characters that have become part of our culture. Why does Nintendo beat out Xbox or PlayStation? Well, I personally prefer Xbox. I think Xbox is a better system to play on, but Xbox frustrates me, and it takes forever to get a good game for Xbox, and half the time there's all kinds of bugs in it. But Nintendo, like I said, keeps changing things up. It keeps itself out there. So why would people prefer Nintendo over Xbox or PlayStation? Or why do they just even know that Nintendo exists? A lot of people get their Xbox and that's all they do is play Xbox. But yet, they still know Nintendo's out there. I tend to forget PlayStation even exists. If it weren't for that commercial that goes, PlayStation, I'd forget about it completely. I just like going, PlayStation. I think it sounds funny. So, think about things like that. When you're walking around thinking about different games and stuff, what screams Xbox? Nothing. Nothing really screams Xbox. In fact, half the games on Xbox can be played elsewhere. So, think about it. What is it about Nintendo that's so attractive that people remember it? Patrick, I know you said something about teletriage, which sounded like a really good idea at the moment until I did a little bit more research. That sounds like a topic for the next essay, for when we do our technology essay. I don't think it's going to work very well for the icon essay. Now, here's an example. If you want to do something in the medical field, the coronavirus there's so much information about corona. Corona has leaped to icon status. 40, 50, 100 years from now, we'll still be talking about corona. It's going to have a hell of a legacy. So right there, maybe you want to think in terms more of broader strokes, where you have a lot of good information to work with. Understand that right now, corona has beaten out all the previous diseases. It's the king. Bubonic plague, corona's worse. AIDS, corona. Ebola, polio. Corona has topped them all. Corona changed our world, changed how we lived our lives, changed how our entire culture. Our world is going to change because of corona. None of these other diseases did that. Smallpox didn't do that. Corona is going to change medicine. The whole field that you're working in is going to change because of corona. It's dominated the news for 4 solid months. The only other topic that's ever been able to do that was war. World War II, the Vietnam War. Really, those are the only two wars I think that really held that much. If we've forgotten the other wars, they come up once in a while, we mentioned, but those were the two big ones. No, nothing else has been able to hold our attention like Corona has. Even 9/11 didn't dominate the news the way Corona has. So this is something to think about. You may want to look into this direction. It's going to make your essay so much easier to write because there is such an abundance of information out there. This is something else that you want to think about when you're writing an essay. Is it something you're interested in? Is it something that you already know about? And this is the most important one. Am I going to be able to find enough information to write this essay? There's a lot of things I'm really interested in that I think would be cool to write about, and I start looking, and there ain't nothing out there. There ain't nothing to use for my research. I may know a ton about it, but the teachers don't want to hear what I know. The teachers want to see what you can find. The whole point of a research essay is to prove that you can find information. Now, Daphne, you mentioned that you want to do John Cena, The Rock. Yep, he's a great example. He has risen to iconic status in the last few years. What lifted him up, first of all, to become a star of the wrestling ring? And how did he break out of that? How did he not get stuck as a wrestling star? There's been a lot of wrestling stars, yet he pushed past that. He's gotten out to how people who don't watch wrestling, like myself, can recognize him and go, oh, wow, that's John Cena, that's The Rock, cool. I know who that guy is. Even if I don't like him, I know who he is. He's been in movies, he does commercials, he's done TV shows, he's done interviews, he's hosted shows, he's done all kinds of crazy things. This is how he gets his face out there, gets people to know him, to recognize him. The fact that he has that nickname, The Rock, that's a big one. That helps us connect to him. Even if we can't remember the name John Cena, we remember The Rock. And why do we remember him, but we don't remember other wrestlers like Vin Diesel and Dave Bautista, who've also branched out? They've also gone out there. Why aren't they popular like The Rock? Alexis, I'm hoping that what you saw with some of these other topics helps you to focus what you're going to do. I still don't know what your topic is, so please tell me soon so I can help you with this. But hopefully you guys, after seeing all this, have a better idea how to approach this, how to do your research. And basically in about a week from now, I'm going to ask also for you here, Alexis, here's some possible things that you can look at. Here are the basic requirements again in case you've forgotten. And remember, in about a week I'm going to ask you to provide me a list of sources that you found. So probably what will happen is not this weekend, but next weekend I'll be calling you up and saying, okay, how is your research going? By this point in time, you should have found your 4 sources. And I'm going to, at that point, tell you how to do the works cited page, and I want you to write up that works cited page at that point before we go any further. Okay? If you have any questions, please call me, and otherwise, take care, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll be in the classroom before too much longer. Bye-bye.